was a thundering torrent, not just of water, but of mud, rock and ice.
Oh my God, Mario.
A cascading wall of destruction. These Nepalese men could only survive by running for their lives. They've seen flooding here before, but never this sheer volume of water. And it takes time for the man filming this to realise that it could kill him. The water scoops up more flying debris, smashing into anything in its path. And the man sprints for the safety of higher ground. The terrifying scene before him lasts not just for a few seconds, but for minutes on end. And the devastation it causes stretches for 40 miles. Emerging from the mud is a man rescued against the odds. Hundreds of Nepalese died when their bodies were swept away. After the deluge, this woman was scooped up by a digger. She's frail and shell-shocked after being submerged for we don't know how long. Not just bridges, but roads, dams and power lines have been washed away and torn apart. In steep Himalayan valleys, already so remote that rescuing people from this raging monster is incredibly difficult. At this hospital in Kathmandu, the doctors were expecting more patients. Then they realised that only helicopters were capable of ferrying survivors here. Outside, relatives are desperate for news, but there is none. Giving the names of those they are missing is all they can do.
In our last conversation, my husband said he was sending walnuts and chocolates for the children. He also sent some instant noodles for them. He said he would be coming soon, but he didn't come.
Hundreds of foreign tourists are missing, including over 30 from the UK. Many of them were on a pilgrimage to Mount Kailash in Tibet. It's the spiritual home of the Hindu god Shiva and a site revered by Buddhists and Jains alike. The Chinese keep the Tibetan border post under video surveillance, and in this shot you can see travellers running from the disaster which is about to befall them.
Literally, the entire group was there in the building. This is a terrible and an extraordinary event.
There was no heavy rainfall to cause this extreme outburst of natural violence. Scientists are pointing to a collapsing glacier, triggering the equivalent of an ocean tsunami. On the Chinese side of the border, the neat lines of rescue workers shown on state television are in stark contrast with the calamity itself. China has controlled Tibet since the 1950s. Videos of the disaster there have been censored, with the focus on saving lives instead. Back in Nepal, gaps in the mud where homes once stood, and the Botakoshi River now looks like an innocent bystander, its waters deceptively placid. But villages have been wiped out, and help is slow to arrive. While upstream from here, another vast pool of water is trapped by debris and at risk of bursting its banks.
Jonathan Rugman. Well, CNN's correspondent Hanako Montgomery is on the ground in the Nuwakot district in Nepal and sent this report.
So over there in the distance is the Trishuli River, which is the river that flooded and killed, we now know, over 100 people and left hundreds more missing. And if you can take a look over here, there is just a massive layer of mud and debris over what used to be green rice fields. This all used to be green valley, and now it's just covered in debris and in mud. And just behind me here, a team of police officers have arrived. They're ascertaining the extent of damage, and they're speaking to local villagers about who might need rescuing, who might need some assistance. We're told that the local mayor is also here to provide the police with more information. And I just want to show you just how extensive this damage was. I mean, you can tell here, just even on this road, at least over 100 meters away from the actual river. You can see the mud has come up. It's blocked off parts of the road. We can't actually go any further than this because the extent of damage is just that bad. We're told that if we were trying to go further, it could be a risk to our lives, so we're staying here for now. But the extent of economic damage, the extent of lives lost is just immeasurable at the moment. And of course, Nepal, the government, still trying to ascertain just how many people have died and still trying to rescue those who might need, in desperate need of assistance.
Well, earlier I spoke to Saga Pandey, who's chief executive of the Himalayan Glacier Adventure and Travel Company. 40 of their guests and 7 staff members are missing. And I began by asking him who was in the group and where were they going?
Well, there were the multinationals and Nepalese, including Australian, Americans, Canadian, Singaporean, and UK nationals. And there were a total of 47 people so far. And they were heading to the Tibet regions. And actually, they were going for the pilgrim tour to Mount Kailas.
And so the last you heard from them was 8 in the morning. What has happened to the area that they were in?
I tried to contact them and I got the information 8:45, the flood happened, because I sent the one chopper with their passports and the visas, and then they could not land, and then they returned back, and then I knew that I tried to call my crew members and tourists who've been with the team and other locals and the hotel owners as well, and so none of them been contacted. So, and I was so scared, and then a lot of news started coming out.
And what has happened to the hotel itself where they were?
Yesterday in 3 o'clock, I took the chopper and I went there to spot the area where they stayed. I didn't find any location of the hotels. It is all flat.
It's just gone.
Yeah, it's just gone. Everything has been swept away. The biggest thing is that the flood was high raise above the almost like 100 feet above the road. So that's why, and people didn't have a chance to survive. And even there is not a way to run up to the mountain, because there was some area which was favorable for the 100 peoples could escape from one small town up to the hills. So they are safe.
Do you think the people in the hotel would have had any place to try and escape to higher ground?
Before I reached there, I was thinking like that way. But once I reach from the chopper and see the views on the ground and see the devastated, landscape, and I cannot believe and I cannot expect that.
Were there any soldiers there in that location? Are they trying to look for people or dig for people?
Yesterday and today, they are doing the search and rescue operation, and there were the different security camps like Nepal police and military and armed force, because every one of them are out of the contact. So locally is not there any security to do that job, and only from Kathmandu and the nearest town, government is trying to send them to find the possible alive people, bring back, safe region.
And how high are the fears that there could be another flash flood, that more of this glacier could break off?
News is coming from the Chinese official that there is a big, water level is rising in the lake. They have given the prediction within a week that might be another burst can happen.
What are you saying to the families of those people who are missing? I mean, what are you able to tell them?
Well, that's we are telling them be optimistic. Still, that we have not found any dead bodies, and then still the search and rescue is underway. I think when the time is passing, none of my staff also in contact to me and any of their families. That's a scary part. The speed of the flash flood is unimaginable, and as well as it is the high-rise flash flood. So that's why they didn't have a chance even to running up to the hills.
Sagapande, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, Purushottam Khatri is a reporter for the Rising Nepal newspaper who's just returned to Kathmandu this evening from the scene of the flooding. He joins me now. Thank you very much for coming on our programme. This must be very, very hard for all of you. When you went there today, what did you see that you will never be able to forget?
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, these platforms. Yeah, I just returned to Kathmandu this evening, late by 10 p.m. after observing and evaluating and monitoring the landslide, flash flood spot, visiting Nuwakot and Lower with Upper, which its origin Rashwa districts. And from there, what I can see is that so far, just about. Let me tell you about the recent the calamities, the casualties that the government of Nepal has reported as of 10 p.m. here in Nepal. But it's already 12 a.m. It's gonna be at 12 a.m. on Friday. But according to the latest report, that the government of Nepal, according to the National Disaster Risk Reductions and Management Authority, has reported is that as of Thursday midnight, Nepal has suffered a total of 389 lives of Nepalese citizens, including some foreigners who have gone to their pilgrimage site, and out of them, 910 have so far been reported missing, and as of Thursday.
Right, sorry to interrupt you. Do those numbers strike you as very low? Because from the anecdotal reports and the scenes of destruction, many people are saying that the actual numbers of missing and dead could be much, much higher.
Yeah, actual number of missing citizens can go much higher, or it may be of 12 to 1300 or 1700 as of today. But we must rely on government reports that so far as of Thursday late 10 p.m. and the government has only said that so far 389 bodies have been recovered and 910 people have been missing so far. But what I can observe from the crime, from the spot, that the devastating side, that over 12 to 1500 people have still been missing on the site.
So the recovery of the bodies will be very difficult, won't it? Because because they're entombed inside the mud, and also there's just not enough help to dig them out at the moment.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, of course, the recovery chances of the people and of the bodies have gone difficult, because the debris or the rubble that was accumulated on the river bank side is almost up to 2-story building, which 2-story houses building has already been blanketed or covered by the rubble. So it's gonna almost so difficult and tough task to the rescue team of the government of Nepal.
Indeed. We're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for your time, Purushottam Khatri.
Thank you. Miss.
All the best. Well, 33 UK citizens are amongst the hundreds of foreign tourists, pilgrims and workers still missing. The youngest Britons are thought to be a 13-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. The UK has strong ties with Nepal and says it is sending £5 million of aid, as well as search and rescue teams. But for Nepalese communities here, the disaster has hit very hard. Here's Francis Reid.
In North London, they gather to remember those who've died and to pray for those who are still missing. The Nepalese community here in Barnet is long established, and even thousands of miles away, this catastrophe is very close to home.
Very shocking news. When I had a first clip of the video from my sister, and I was thinking there was some kind of joke. Then after that, I'm receiving lots and lots of videos, and which was absolutely shocking for our community and for myself.
This afternoon they were practicing for the Nepali Mela held in London every year, which celebrates Nepal's culture and traditions. And this, a song about looking for hope and meaning through difficulties.
I was really shocked when I saw the videos of all those people running away. I felt really sad.
33 British nationals are known to be among the more than 1,400 missing, many of them on organised tours, the youngest thought to be a 13-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. There is surveillance from the air, including looking for signs of people who may be trapped underwater and in mud. But access has been difficult and information is still scant. Several travel companies have confirmed that British citizens were taking part in their tours. The region of northern Nepal and southern Tibet is visited by tourists and pilgrims alike. Thousands take part in the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra every year, a pilgrimage which has spiritual importance to Buddhists, Hindus and Jains, and has also become popular for hiking, trekking and climbing. There is a rich history between Britain and Nepal. More than 250,000 Gurkhas fought in World War II, and the regiment's still a unique part of the British Army. In a statement this afternoon, the King reiterated the UK's strong, deep ties to this part of the world, and that he had profound sympathy for those who'd lost their loved ones. And that strong connection means continued high expectations for what Britain should now provide to Nepal. As international aid heads to the area, the Foreign Office here says it's giving consular support and that Britain will donate £5 million as well as help on the ground.
In the past, Nepal has been there for Britain in our hour of need, and we will be there for Nepal in its hour of need right now. So the immediate offer that the Foreign Secretary has relayed to the Nepalese government is an offer of first responders, search and rescue support. Britain excels in this. And we're there and we're ready to be deployed.
It is unimaginable to the point of disbelief. But when the scale of destruction is so large, it is the small gestures that people turn to, in solidarity and in hope.
Now, the disaster that struck the mountainous Nepal-Tibet border region was initially reported to have been caused by an earthquake. But climate experts at the International Centre for Integrated Mountain Development say the event may have actually been caused by a glacial collapse near the Langtang Lerung peak. Now, with satellite images, we can see a large mass of glacier ice that appears to have detached from the mountainside, there we go, triggering what is known as an ice avalanche. The enormous mass of ice then plunged thousands of feet, moving northwest down the valley towards the Lende Kola River, and then into the Bote Koshi River, and finally into the Trishuli River. Images taken before and after the event show the impact, with the river obviously swollen, from the surge of water, mud and debris that rolled downstream and took everything with it. Now, further downstream, scientists say that water levels on the Trishuli River rose by as much as 9 meters, around 27 feet, in just half an hour. Well, as the authorities grapple with search and rescue operations, Nepal's Disaster Management Authority has warned of more flooding risks from the new lake that's formed on the border. Communities living downstream from the Bote Koshi River have been urged to move to safer ground amid concerns that the rising lake could burst. Well, joining me now is Dr. C. Scott Watson from the University of Leeds. He's leader of the Glacial Lake Observatory for Flood Hazards Impacted by Climate Change program and has been to Nepal 9 times, I think. It's good to have you on the program. This is your expertise, right? So, first of all, explain it to me like I'm a 10-year-old. Why do glaciers collapse?
Yeah, so in this case, we have a significant volume of ice that's perched up on the mountainside. And they're in this situation because the climate's warming. These glaciers are retreating, further into these mountain catchments, onto these precarious slopes. And we know that also the landscapes are warming as the climate warms. So the permafrost, the permanently frozen ground at these high elevations, begins to thaw. And this is kind of like the glue that holds these landscapes together. So when that starts to thaw, we have meltwater percolating through the glacier, through the rock, and it's much more likely for these glaciers to then become unstable.
So just to be clear, climate change, you think, has something to do with this?
It's always very difficult initially to pinpoint and attribute specific events to climate change without much more analysis. But we see the general trend of climate warming, and we see an increasing frequency of similar style events to this as well, not just in Nepal, but across the Himalaya.
And is the reason why they thought it might have been an earthquake at first, because the release of energy was so enormous, the ground shook so much that they thought that's what it was?
Absolutely, yeah. So, this massive ice, and some of the estimates that I've seen are talking about 100 million cubic meters of ice and rock that's cascaded down over a vertical kilometre. So a huge amount of energy, and that would have
going straight down.
Absolutely,
hence more energy.
Yes, yeah. So that water's transitioned, that ice has transitioned straight to water, incorporating all that sediment. And there would have been significant ground shaking, which was initially reported as an earthquake.
So in those very steep valleys that we saw, the communities, the roads, the bridges, they don't stand a chance, do they?
No. So these valleys are really steep. And actually, what we need is a detailed flood hazard mapping in these valleys, because, that's something that's really lacking. But any communities, hydropower, there's significant hydropower investment. This is a major trade route between Nepal and China. So anything at the bottom of these valleys, is really in kind of harm's way.
We talked about this other lake that's formed as a result of what's been happening, maybe two lakes. What's the danger there?
Yeah, absolutely. So these lakes are formed behind the dam.
So there are two of them?
There's two lakes, yeah. So there's one at the bottom of the initial collapse, and then there's one kind of where the landslide intersected with the main valley. So essentially, the landslide has dammed the river, has dammed all the meltwater, and that's accumulating behind to form these lakes. And these could very easily overtop. So these are, dammed by unstable sediment, which is going to cause potentially secondary flooding. So that will be really on kind of the mind of the Nepali authorities, and also the search and rescue teams working, in these channels.
And how likely is that they will also collapse?
These kind of features are fairly transient. So, it could outburst in a couple of days. It could be a couple of weeks. They could persist for a month or more. But the likelihood is that dam will breach at some point. It will become overtopped because it's still accumulating significant volumes of meltwater from the catchment.
So that valley is, which has been very popular with tourists because it's not too far from Kathmandu if you want to go hiking. Obviously, as you said, it's a major trading route between China and Nepal. That valley for now is kind of, it's uninhabitable, presumably.
Yeah, so there's a single road going up that valley, so access is extremely difficult. To get excavators in there with the search and rescue effort, it is very difficult. And this flood has deposited, meters, tens of meters of sediment.
That sets like cement, right?
That sets in some cases like concrete. So it's extremely difficult to get through. This will have a legacy impact in this landscape for years, decades to come. And any future flooding, so potentially from these lakes, is at a much higher base level now. We have 10 meters, 20 meters in some cases of sediment that's deposited on the riverbed. So any flood that's coming down that valley is starting from a much higher position as well.
And finally, is there any way of predicting that this thing might happen? Are there early warning signs that may have been picked up that should have been picked up?
We have a lot of satellite data where we can do monitoring, and that's one of the things that we're working on. The problem is we don't have the automatic systems kind of doing that at the moment. We have the data, but we're still developing the techniques to look at precursory kind of signals. So in this case, it could have been deformation, so the glacier and the rock slope. And we've seen this in previous events. There was an event in India in 2021 where we could see that precursory movement of the whole ice and the rock deforming before the event. So in that case, you could have had potentially some early warning.
Grim stuff, but fascinating. Professor Watson, thanks very much indeed.